Hi, welcome to Coffee and Astronomy. Yeah, I'm Jim Craig, and you probably noticed that this isn't coffee. You're pretty keen-eyed. I congratulate you on that. No, there's a reason I have ice water here. It's winter where I am right now, and in the winter the humidity drops, but it doesn't go away, and you can see here that there's at least a little condensation. I don't know if you can focus on that or not, but there's some condensation on that glass. And that's because with ice in the glass, the temperature of the glass itself is lower than the dew point in this room. And the dew point's pretty low in this room. Again, it's winter, so the humidity is pretty low. But that leads to a problem when you're doing astronomy. You're out there with your telescope, and the air is a little chilly and a little brisk. Your telescope might drop below the dew point, either the glass, the optics, or the outside of the telescope. And that's going to give you condensation on your telescope. And it's going to lead to two possible problems. First of all, it's going to interfere with your viewing. I mean, you get fog across your optics, you won't be able to see through them. And then there's getting moisture on and in your telescope, your binoculars, and that can cause all kinds of problems. So what I want to talk about is how to avoid it, how to alleviate it, and how to sort of wrap up at the end of the night. Now, if you have a Newtonian telescope, it means that most of the optics are way at the back end. So the entire tube of the telescope is going to act as a big dew shield. So you probably don't have to worry about your primary mirror getting too fogged up, but you may want to do something for your secondary mirror. Also for your eyepieces, because your eyepieces can fog up. And for your secondary mirror on your Newtonian, for your primary, or for your corrector plate on a Schmidt-Cassegrain, or your primary objective in a refracting telescope, you want to find some way of keeping the temperature up and keeping the dew away. To keep the temperature up, you might consider what is called a dew zapper, it's essentially an electric heater that attaches to your telescope, and it doesn't generate a lot of heat, just a few watts, but enough to keep it up above that dew point. If you look in my budget-conscious astronomer list, you'll see that I have the plans for making your own dew heater to help avoid it. And I used that on multiple occasions. I did raise the voltage a little bit because we do have bad humidity where I live. I live in the southeastern United States, and we have a really big problem with humidity down here. And it's not just in winter. It happens spring, summer, fall here, where we have problems with condensation on the optics. Another very easy way is to delay it. You cannot completely alleviate it with this method, but you can delay it, and that's by putting on a dew shield. And that's essentially a large device, it's a large tube that connects to the end of your telescope, extending out beyond your optics. And I'll try to get a picture of one for you right here. But essentially, it puts your optics back away from the ambient air, and somehow or another, I'm not exactly certain how, but it helps keep the dew from forming quite as quickly. It will still form, but these are good for Schmidt-Cassegrain telescopes or Maxitov telescopes or refracting telescopes. Now, don't think that keeping your scope inside is, and looking out the window is a good thing, because you're going to get air currents and turbulence and things are going to look terrible. Never poke your telescope out of a window. It just doesn't work. Not unless the inside of the room is the same temperature as it is outside. And if you've got a room like that, well, congratulations, you've got an observatory. But yeah, some people will look through windows. Some people will, poke a telescope out of a window. That just doesn't work. So you've done your viewing, and suddenly you find that you have dew on your optics, but you're not finished observing. You have dew on your optics. One very simple solution is a hairdryer, not a heat gun. A heat gun is going to damage your optics. A hairdryer on a low setting. If your hairdryer only has high setting, don't use that or hold it way, way, way back. But again, just enough, and keep an eye on your optics. As soon as you see that fog dissipate, stop. Because you just want to get it warm enough to avoid having the condensation on it. So when you're when you're outside, you have a power supply that allows you to take out a hairdryer. I do it working from home. But again, just enough to get rid of the condensation. So I'm sorry, I need a little drink here. So say you've finished up the night and you've kept your optics clear, but suddenly you discover that your tube is completely covered in moisture. So what can you do about it? Well, the solution is simple. Try to take it into a room that is as cool as possible, because you don't want to exacerbate the problem by having more moisture and going way below the dew point in that room. And don't put on any covers. Don't put on your lens cap. Don't put on a cap over the end of your eyepiece holder. Put your eyepieces out. But the big thing is how you orient them. You don't want them sitting like this. You want them sitting like this. That way, you don't have dust falling onto it. And just let the moisture evaporate. And again, as soon as it is evaporated, put your covers on, put your lens caps on, put your eyepieces back in their little holders. And that will help you deal with the moisture. Again, you can't get rid of it entirely. I know of a few telescopes that don't have to deal with moisture. One is the Hubble, one is the new James Webb Space Telescope. If you put a telescope in space, you don't have to worry about it. And any place where you see that dew forms, like again, we have here on the glass, try to get enough of that to show you that it is indeed wet. But you don't need to let condensation ruin your experience when you're out doing astronomy. So until next time, this is Jim Craig with Coffee and Astronomy. And when it comes to astronomy, I hope you do it. That was awful.